If you were to jack up any car from the last 20 or 30 years or so which has disc brakes and try and spin the wheel, it is natural that you're going to hear the pads rubbing ever so slightly on the disc. What is not normal is this. You should be able to spin the wheel and it should at least spin for a couple of rotations before it comes to a stop. Some drag is natural, but this is ridiculous. Welcome back to MotoringBox. I'm Sean McKellar and today we are once again looking at the brakes on my AU Fairmont. Long-time followers of my channel will know that we looked at the pads and the rotors. And it was quickly apparent after I replaced the rotors and replaced the worn out pads for some meaty new ones that there were some issues with the front calipers dragging. The pistons that actually push on the brake pad are probably all pitted around the walls and not allowing them to retract properly. And I think what happens as well, because the pads are getting thinner as they wear out, those pistons over time have to retract less to sort of do the same job. And then when you fit a nice meaty set of pads and they have to try and retract back to a place they haven't been to in years, it just can't do it. So I'm hoping today's solution is going to fix the problem. So what I've got here is I've got a pair of Protex brake calipers for an AU Falcon. And on first inspection, these look fantastic. So you could recondition your existing calipers, but this car needs to be driven daily to work. It can't be without a vehicle, so I think it makes sense in my case to just replace them wholesale. I've never actually taken a caliper off a vehicle or installed a new one, and I've never actually bled the brakes on a car either. So I'm gonna be learning today, as are you guys. In theory, it should be a pretty simple job, but let's get the existing caliper off and see what we're dealing with. Let's go to the bench and have a look at this caliper. I don't know if you can see, it is pretty much shot. These rubber seals are cactus. They look incredibly shoddy, and I did try and pack some new grease in behind the seal to try and lubricate the piston, but already I can see one of these pistons is sitting out a little bit further than the other, so it's just not retracting as much as it needs to, and that's probably what was causing the drag. You could recondition, you can replace these pistons, you can replace the seals, or you can just put it aside and buy a brand new one. So you can see now why I've gone for this option. It would take a lot of effort, a lot of time to recondition these. There's also the slide pins here, which also feel incredibly grindy on this. That feels horrendous. So it is no surprise that these are dragging on the disc. In comparison, if you have a look at this one, it is sliding beautifully, and you only have to look at the seals and the pistons there to know that, look, they're pretty simple beasts, these calipers. So even though these are kind of a cheap no-name brand, I absolutely have faith in them compared to myself trying to overhaul and replace these. Now the way these discs look may say otherwise, but these are actually almost brand new. They've only been on for probably 1,000 or less than 2,000 kilometers, so they should be fine. I haven't felt any warping or anything through the pedal, so we just have to get it roughly in place. First bolt is in. Sort of have to do the reach around and try and go in blind until you feel the shaft line up with the hole, and then you're good to go. There is a torque setting for these I'll put on screen, but for now I'm just doing them up bloody tight. So to unhinge a caliper, I usually get a adjustable wrench, otherwise known as a shifter, hashtag shifter gang. Then we just need to get a socket for this. So you need your shifter because the other nut there is going to freewheel if you don't hold it. So, yeah, that's what you need to do. Tell you what, it's beautiful having new calipers. This bolt is just coming out perfectly. Everything's all new and shiny. I love it. All right, so we can now slot our existing pads back in. And the disc is going to move around until you put the wheel back on, so that's normal. And look, this thing is going back on without any resistance sliding across the pad, so that is already a good sign. It means the pistons are retracted nice and far. They will of course move closer after you apply the brakes for the first time, but hopefully they retract back to where they need to be. I'll torque this one up, bloody tight. So now we need to refit our brake line. So the kit does come with a new seal or a new washer, a new brass one, so that'll slot on there, which I love. And it should just pop on like so. Okay. Fingers crossed we don't get any leaks out of that. Alright, so we have our calipers installed and now we need to bleed the system. So I purchased this Tool Pro one-man brake bleeder kit, and it includes a little bleeder bottle and some various fittings and adapters. So it looks as though to get to the bleeder nipple, which is down here on the side, we may need to flip this caliper out. So I'm going to do that now and have a look. Okay, so according to the kit, we mount the bottle up higher above the caliper height, and then we use this little adapter here to go into the end of the bleed nipple. And then it reckons we just have to open the bleeder screw one turn. Now that's probably about one, so I'll put that back into the end. It reckons we now need to push the brake pedal 3 or 4 times. And then we have to check the clear tubing for any air bubbles. If there's no air bubbles existing, then we should be done, and then we should just be able to tighten the nipple back up and move on to the other side. So let's see what happens. Okay, so I did see a few air bubbles come out of there. It looks like there are still a few here. Right guys, it is raining, so I'll keep this brief. This has got to be one of the most satisfying jobs I've ever had to do in the garage. For a job which started out being extremely scary to me and seemingly rather difficult, it's actually dead set easy, so long as you follow the steps correctly. And I just had a little bit of issue bleeding those calipers as well. You have to make sure the calipers are vertical and the little bleed nipple is at the top to allow the air to rise and to simply come out. And you would have seen when I figured that out and I raised the calipers up, the air almost bled out by itself. I didn't even have to pump the pedal to get all of it out. So that got rid of all the sponginess. And these brakes, I've got to say, they've made a phenomenal difference. This car just rolls forever now. And if you want to check, if you simply feel how hot is the wheel on your car, the two fronts should be roughly the same. And the fronts are going to be a little bit warmer than the rears because they do the majority of the braking force when you're driving. So basically, if either of the front wheels are a lot hotter than the other, that is a warning sign. And also likewise, if the fronts are a hell of a lot hotter than the rears, that could be a warning sign as well. So definitely check out your car, make sure it's rolling beautifully down the road and that none of the wheels are particularly hot. But this is a typical Falcon problem, so do bear it in mind. And there is a brake booster adjustment which you can do. I've filmed that separately. That'll be published in a video up here. So do check that out if you want to figure out how to adjust your brake booster. That'll affect when the brakes actually start to come on. So it does give you a little bit of adjustment there. So do check that out. But otherwise, I'm extremely happy with this fix. It has made a phenomenal difference to how the brakes on this car feel. They almost feel like brand new. So thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions on how to perform this fix yourself, do hit me up in the comments below. I'll be happy to help. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.